In this book, the author explores the two systems of thinking that drive the way we make decisions. He explains how these systems can lead to cognitive biases and errors, and how we can learn to recognize and overcome them. So let's dive into the key insights and themes of thinking fast and slow. Chapter 1. The two systems. The author introduces us to two systems of thinking, System 1 and System 2. System 1 is fast, intuitive, and automatic, while System 2 is slow, deliberate, and effortful. System 1 operates quickly and automatically, relying on heuristics and mental shortcuts to make decisions. System 2 is slower, more deliberative, and more analytical. He explains that both systems are essential for decision making, but they have their strengths and weaknesses. System 1 is prone to errors and biases, while System 2 is slower and more accurate. Understanding how these two systems work together can help us make better decisions and avoid common cognitive pitfalls. Chapter 2. Attention and effort. In this chapter, the author explores the relationship between attention and effort. He explains how System 2 requires effort and attention to function properly, while System 1 operates automatically and unconsciously. He also discusses how attention can be a scarce resource and how we can become easily overwhelmed when we try to do too much at once. He offers practical tips for managing our attention and improving our ability to focus. Chapter 3. The Lazy Controller. He introduces us to the concept of the lazy controller, the part of our brain that tries to conserve energy and effort whenever possible. He explains how this controller can lead to cognitive biases and errors, and how we can overcome these biases by engaging System 2 thinking. He discusses how our emotions and feelings can influence our decision making, and how we can learn to recognize and control these influences. Chapter 4. The Associative Machine. In this chapter, he explores the associative nature of System 1 thinking. He explains how our brains automatically make associations between ideas and how these associations can lead to biases and errors. He also discusses how these associations can be influenced by our experiences and environment, and how we can learn to recognize and challenge them. Chapter 5. Cognitive Ease. He introduces us to the concept of cognitive ease, the mental state in which our brains are functioning smoothly and effortlessly. He explains how this state can lead to cognitive biases and errors, and how we can learn to recognize and overcome them. He also discusses how cognitive ease can be influenced by our mood, environment, and level of expertise, and how we can use this knowledge to improve our decision making. Chapter 6. Norms, Surprises, and Causes. In this chapter, he explores how our brains use norms, surprises, and causes to make sense of the world around us. He explains how these mental shortcuts can lead to cognitive biases and errors, and how we can learn to recognize and overcome them. He also discusses how these mental shortcuts can be influenced by our expectations and assumptions, and how we can use this knowledge to improve our decision making. Chapter 7. The Illusion of Understanding. He discusses how we often think we understand something when we really don't. He explains how this illusion of understanding can lead to overconfidence and mistakes in decision making. He also discusses how our desire for coherence and meaning can lead us to ignore or dismiss information that doesn't fit for our preconceived ideas or beliefs. He offers strategies for overcoming these biases and improving our ability to learn and adapt. Chapter 8. The Anchoring Effect. In this chapter, he explores the anchoring effect, the tendency for our initial impressions or estimates to influence our subsequent decisions or judgments. He explains how this bias can lead to errors in negotiation, pricing, and other areas. He also discusses how we can learn to recognize and overcome the anchoring effect, and how we can use this knowledge to make more accurate and informed decisions. Chapter 9. The Science of Availability. He introduces us to the science of availability, the idea that our judgments and decisions are influenced by the ease with which we can recall information. He explains how this bias can lead to errors in risk assessment and how we can learn to recognize and overcome it. He also discusses how our perceptions of risk are influenced by our emotions and personal experiences, and how we can use this knowledge to make better decisions. Chapter 10. The Overconfidence Problem. In this chapter, he explores the problem of overconfidence, the tendency to be too certain about our judgments or predictions. He explains how this bias can lead to mistakes in decision making and how we can learn to recognize and overcome it. He also discusses how our confidence can be influenced by our level of expertise, the complexity of the task, and our past successes and failures. He offers strategies for improving our accuracy and avoiding overconfidence. Chapter 11. Choices, Values, and Frames. He discusses how our choices, values, and frames can influence our decision making. He explains how our preferences can be influenced by the way choices are presented or framed, and how this can lead to biases and errors. He also discusses how our values and beliefs can influence our decision making and how we can learn to recognize and overcome these biases. Chapter 12. Two Selves. In the final chapter, he explores the concept of the two selves, the experiencing self and the remembering self. He explains how these two selves can have different preferences and priorities and how this can influence our decision making. He also discusses how our memories are often imperfect and unreliable and how this can lead to biases and errors. He offers strategies for improving our ability to remember accurately and make better decisions. There's a link in the description below that you can use to buy this book, which helps us create content like this for free. In conclusion, Thinking Fast and Slow is a fascinating and thought-provoking book that explores the concept and often irrational nature of human decision-making. By understanding the two systems of thinking, recognizing our biases and errors, and learning to engage our system 2 thinking, we can make better decisions and lead more fulfilling lives.